Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to make a contribution to the bill before this Honorable House, the Pensions Amendment Bill, a significant piece of legislation for the workers, and in particular, the government workers here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to first commend the hard work of all of our auxiliary workers over the many years and decades, and the service that they have given to this country, to this government, and to our national development. Many of them are here in the audience today, in the gallery, and there are many also downstairs. And I want you to know that for you downstairs and for you in the gallery, we're going to take a moment after we take a break for lunch to come and greet you, to extend our well wishes to you on this significant achievement where you, the government auxiliary workers of the government, are now entitled to a pension just like any other government appointed worker. And gratuity. Pension and gratuity. It is important to note, because this is something that has always plagued the government service, where people are fighting and jostling to get appointed in the service because they want the benefits of becoming appointed in the service. And as you know, the service has limited appointed positions, and the government auxiliary workers were meant to act as auxiliary services to those appointed positions. And so every week, every month, every day, workers are jostling and toggling, and I should get that last position that is there, because when I retire, I want to have a pension. Now, there is no need for that fight anymore. As long as you contribute your service to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis for the stipulated times in this bit of legislation, you are now guaranteed a pension. So to all the workers in public works, the carpenters, the masons, the many persons who fixing so many of our roads right now, they are Southwell Drive, up by Honorable Member for number 1. And then they're going to George Street. Then they're going up to Trafalgar. Then they're going down to Sandy Point. Then they're going to Boyd's. Then they're going to New Road. Then they're going to Clico. Then they're going to, I could go on and on. Then they're going to Halfway Tree. Then they're going, yeah, oh, you mean? All over they're going. For all of those who work in night and day as an auxiliary worker, you don't have to worry about this appointment for the last position that's available. You now qualify and are guaranteed a pension. And what's important as well, because the member opposite highlighted, that the persons who are eligible are persons who would have had to work for 15 years and also contributed for 15 years. But I confirmed with the Attorney General and the legislation that that is going forward. Going forward. So those who exist now qualify for your pension once you meet the years. Going forward, that is very important. So I want to commend all of those, as I said, in public works, in water services department, every morning, 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., we have young men going up into the mountains, thousands, 1,500 feet above sea level, 2,000 feet above sea level, to go and check on the water sources to ensure that even though it's limited now and greatly reduced, that they're going there every week to check on our sources, walking in treacherous areas. And you are a government auxiliary worker, you're guaranteed a pension when you decide to retire or when you reach your age of 62. All of those workers, the persons at VMD, Vehicle Maintenance Division, I said roads already, those at the quarry, all of you now at Public Works, all of you in the Ministry of Infrastructure, you now qualify for a pension. That is a significant milestone for the workers of St. Kitts and Nevis. And it goes beyond that, of course, in the other ministries. The Prime Minister spoke about the crossing guards, many of whom are from my own constituency, the cooks, the cleaners, those who may sweep the drains, everybody, every Tutmun and Sam and Bagaito? Bagaito. What do you say? And Samantha? And Samantha. Everybody guaranteed a pension. Now it is important to note something the member opposite also said, that, you know, we would want to maybe frame this sometimes in a political way. Let me make clear that this is a political decision to act on behalf of the workers of this country. It's a political decision. And it is the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administrations, over its 93 years of existence, who has always made the political decisions in the interests of the working class of this federation. Has always been. Has always been. Everything you can think about, any major milestone for workers, I almost guarantee you, every single one of them were made under a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration. This is a political decision to attend to a political mandate that was given to this particular administration. And I just want to take, before I complete the political synopsis, I want to just have a quick look at some of the very important parts of this legislation. I won't spend too long because I think the mover of the bill, and I must congratulate the mover of the bill, the Honorable Prime Minister and member for constituency number 8, who of course has been adamant and championing this push since we got to office just about 2.5 years ago. What we have before us in this amendment bill is now a bill that allows persons to contribute to the bill. I heard the member opposite as well, from member from number 9, mentioned about whether there should be consideration of refunding the contributed part from the employee if they decide to leave. Now, I've come from private sector, and even my pension plan then, in the modern setup of how the pension plan is, the employee contributes, and if I break the pension for any reason, I get back what I put in. I don't get what the company put in, but I get back what I put in. And I think that that is the modern framework of many pension schemes around the globe. It is different slightly from Social Security because Social Security is a national social mandate to protect all among us. This is an employer-to-employee relationship that is saying, I am going to put something towards your pension. Join me in putting a bit more so that I can invest more. But if you have to go, you're not going to get what I put in for you. I can give you back yours, and we move on. And I think that the actuary reports and studies and analysis will show that this was actually the way in which to do it to ensure that it was sustainable, to now have the employee be able to contribute. And this government was extraordinarily considerate of that. And why it was important, in preparation for this time, to increase the salaries of the employees by 8%. Initially, the intent was to increase by 5%, but we said no, we're going to increase by 8%, so that the 3% that is to go towards your contribution, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to feel it, because your salary would have been increased by 8%, and 3% of that will be put into your contributory plan portion, and you will get the 5%. But what's even more important about how this is now set up is the same idea that member of number 9 spoke of, where you're not losing any of it at all, because you're getting the same full 8% increase and any other increase you're going to get, because the 3% which you put in is yours. And you'll get it back if you start working today, and unfortunately have to leave next month, you get back your 3%. So it's now a contributory plan which makes it much more financially stable and sustainable so that it can last forever. Importantly, as I mentioned, it now extends to persons who were previously ineligible to benefit from the pension scheme or pension plan, and that would be our auxiliary workers. It regulates how the pension payments and gratuities are made. It is clearly defined, the eligibility criteria, which ensures consistency and which ensures predictability. It establishes the fund so that we can now invest. And I think the Accountant General is the manager of the fund, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. AG.
Accountant General. Yes.
Accountant General. So they are responsible for ensuring that this fund is properly managed and that it will give a return on your investment. So you're going to now find the best places, wherever they exist, to put those funds to sit down, so that every year, 3%, 4%, however much percent you can get return on your investment. Like how modern pension funds work. So you put in the money, your contribution goes in, the government contribution goes in while you're working, that money is growing for you. I always say that we need to, and that is why I'm so pleased about the Aspire program. We need to learn how money, passive money, works for you while you're sitting down, as small as it may be. $20 put down for 20 years in a compound interest account with 3 or 4% gives you maybe 5 or 6 times that amount of money. A lot of multiplication if you know how to invest. And that is what a pension plan allows to do. So it establishes a dedicated pension fund to manage the contributions. And also it moves the retirement age to 62. Of course, persons have the option, if you don't want to wait until 62 right now, you can decide to stay on what is the existing plan, and you would leave at 55. So, Madam Speaker, without trying to be too long, those are the general benefits of the pension plan, and it is obviously an attempt to make the fund sustainable and paying pensions something that we can depend on. Prime Minister spoke about all of the other benefits, where if you had made your maximum number of contributions to Social Security, and you would have made your maximum or your minimum requirement to meet the criteria for pension in the government, you can effectively go home with 100% of your salary when you retire at age 62. That is important, because the Prime Minister and all of us in the Cabinet believe that people must be able to age with dignity, to retire with dignity, and not be concerned about what I will do when I hit 62. So this is a very, very, very important day in our federation. Now, I said I wanted to complete the political context, because oftentimes when these things are done that are so monumental, we sometimes forget how it is we got here. We take it for granted. We take for granted that there were slaves at one point who had no rights. They had no say over themselves, their body, their family, where they live, what they eat. They were torn away from their own families. They died. They traversed across a treacherous Atlantic, never to see their family again. And because we didn't live it, sometimes we take for granted what it took to end those kind of things. Same thing we do. We feel and we are entitled to vacation every year when we work. That if you work a certain amount of time, you need a certain amount of time off. We take for granted that you should only work for a certain someone can only force you to work for a certain hours, not force you, but you can work for a certain amount of hours a day. And you can't be forced to work for more than that. We take for granted that somebody had to stand up to an existing system to ensure that those things became reality. Or else we could just continue with the status quo. We take for granted that in 1932, when the workers at Buckley's estate wanted an increase of the bare minimum, that they marched around St. Kitts to gather support and tell Mr. Durbridge on Buckley's estate that we are working, we work hard through the Christmas, we ain't get nothing, we ain't get no bonus, we ain't get nothing, we ain't get no goat water, nothing at all. And it took people to stand up, or else that would remain the status quo. We take those things for granted. We take for granted that people were going to work for government or private sector and not be guaranteed any subsistence after they would have retired, resigned, or asked to leave. We have taken those things for granted. But in all of those situations, it was a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party that stood along with the workers to change what was the status quo at that time. And so when it became apparent that it was not the right thing to continue having government auxiliary workers, non-established workers, I think they were called then, to continue to provide the service which was perhaps originally intended to just be auxiliary services, to be separated from approved and established workers, it became apparent to the Dr. Douglas-led administration that this was an important change that needed to happen. And they started the work. And in 2012, a piece of legislation was passed. And then efforts were made to operationalize that. But people forget that while that administration at the time was still focused on the workers' rights and normalizing and standardizing how we treat all government workers, there was treachery in the camp right after 2012 that sought to distract some of the important work that was ongoing. And in fact, in 2014, an argument was made by the member from number 7 that if the bill was passed in 2012, that the administration of the day should have already done what they needed to do to fix the situation. In 2014, that argument was made. It was made to say that 2 years was enough time and that you should get rid of an administration at the time because they had not fulfilled the commitment to regularize the government auxiliary workers. 2 years was too short for the member for number 7 in 2014. And the people believed. I remember, I'm not going to call the guy's name or I'm not going to describe him. He's from your constituency, honorable member for number 4. Because if I describe him, everybody going to know who he be. Because he's a very obvious fellow. And he told me that the reason he rallied people against a Labour administration in 2015 was because the administration had promised. And the member from number 7 said that he's going to do it and that they're not going to do it. Although all the plans were there. I think if the administration had continued in 2015, that is the year it would have come into being. That's correct, member for number 6? That is the year this would have been effectuated, 2015. But you see, there are some among us who seem to only know politics. They only see politics as a transactional endeavor. And so they're going to make the case that you need to choose me over those who are there. But when they get there, what do? They find another system in which to keep the people dependent on them, but with no independence. So, what was it called then? The subsistence program? PAP? Yes. PAP, that doesn't go towards nothing for you. It's just a cash transfer. If you leave, somebody could decide to take it away. It was not based in any legislation. It was not protected by any law. And your dog could get it. Nothing that will ensure your sustainability as you age with dignity. That was the focus then, to ensure that people had to come to your door. This legislation establishes this thing as a right. But then, the member from number 7 wanted to ensure that people had to come knocking on the door of somebody to kneel down to get some assistance. And while I cannot discuss cabinet decisions or discussions, we can certainly talk about what has been brought before the cabinet. And the record will show, as I have in my hand here, that the only time that this issue became a hot button issue in the last administration was just before an election. So in February of 2020, when was the election after February 2020? June? June 5th. Yes, February 25th, 2020. That is when there was a major hiccup about the new contributory pension plan. That's 5 years after the election of 2015, 2020. Big thing. how regarding operationalizing thing. I guess COVID hit, that's the excuse and so on. The election happened. They were able to lock down the country. I remember, member from number 6 and myself, we could be in a room with 25 people, and they could be in a, you were there? They could be in a Marriott with hundreds of people. They could be out on the road delivering care packages, while I couldn't even go outside my gate. You see, and they used to have people to follow us too, you know. Yeah. Used to have people to follow us as members of parliament then. So just before the 2020 election, all of a sudden, the contributory pension plan becomes a hot topic. Okay, so the election was won by them again in June of 2020. So when again do you think that it became a hot button issue? Take a guess. No. No.
Remember you was on
a hot button issue, I say, you know. Hot button. And remember, don't forget that in 2014, we were told by the member from number 7 that 2 years was more than enough time to get it resolved. So now we at 5 years in 2020. Then, the member for number 11, the member for number 11, the member for number 10, the member for number 9, the member for number 5, the member for number 2 then got fired in 2022. Sorry, I'm not intentionally reminding you, but I'm just doing it to make the point. Huh? Yes. Yes. So they were fired. So they don't even know when this became another hot button issue. Because they weren't there. They weren't there. When was the election of 2022? August 5th?
Yes. 4 days before.
August 5th? No, man. August 5th?
Yes, August 5th.
The next time a 3-member cabinet decided that the pension thing was an important thing was July of 2022. The parliament done dissolve, people done fire, election done call, and that is when the cabinet, 11 July 2022, and this doesn't say that this was there at the 11th. That will come after the 11th because this is the date of the document. 11 July 2022.
They even have a quorum then?
I don't think that they had no quorum. No quorum. And in that, it is referring to the last time they deal with it, on Monday, 24th February 2020. No more details? Okay. No more details. The point is that we cannot take for granted that this is a political decision to get it done. There was nothing stopping the member from number 7 in 2015 from effectuating and operationalizing the 2012, which was the intent of the government at the time. And I know Dr. Douglas, the member from number 6, would probably say, well, I should have just do it one time and done, and, instead of 7.5 years stringing the auxiliary workers of the government along and did not deliver. Let the record show that in 2.5 years, a number of things was done by this government. Not just this, it's the culmination. And we learned a lesson too. Remember Dr. Douglas, had the legislation 2012 and didn't operationalize it yet because we had to go and put some things in place. Well, now we said, no. We ain't gonna get catch like that again. So the people must know that we have done all the work now in 2.5 years. So that on which day? Friday coming? Friday coming, this new bill is operational. No more waiting. And so we did all the things that we need to do to ensure that this was going to be operationalized when we pass it in Parliament. Can't wait. That's the good thing I like about this English Labour Party, you know. We learn because we want to do better each time. Wherever we fall short, we learn. We know that sometimes we will not get it right. But we have learned. And that is why I feel so grateful, as the member from number 1 said, to be a part of the A team. Because we have both youth and experience.
Not a youth.
We ain't got no old people. Just youth and experience. In fact, the person who's supposed to have the most numbers behind the age is the person with the most energy in the cabinet. You didn't see how we walk in the Parliament this morning? Brisk, with a big smile.
I think I'm on the right side this time.
So we cannot take for granted, Madam Speaker. We cannot take for granted, Madam Speaker, the extraordinary will and the political will to get this done. Number of things were done. As soon as we got in, we realized the discrepancy with the gratuity that was paid, where for whatever reason I don't understand, where the gratuity was reduced for the government auxiliary workers. I mean, what's the rationale for that? I don't know. That one kerfuffles me. I think that's a term they use in Barbados. Kerfuffle me. We corrected that right away. Persons were able to get their balance that was owed to them. And many a times, different people, the important persons in government, came to our cabinet to explain exactly how this would work. I leave the Prime Minister to call out the names. But obviously, persons who are responsible for the civil service, are responsible for the treasury and so on, made presentation after presentation, back and forth. This is what we need to do. You have to make sure you understand this. Don't forget we have to look for these people. Don't forget we have to protect these people. Don't forget this. What about that? And so we are pleased to be a part of this process. And the record must show that it is a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration that has once again delivered for the workers of this country. So now we have a situation where the government service has been leveled. There is no more you are appointed, you are auxiliary, so you stay over there and you stay over there. Everybody in the same pot. Everybody in the same pot. So when you're working, nobody could show off on you. No PS or no junior clerk could show off on you and say, I gave me pension, you know. You just watch them, I gave me pension too. With respect, of course. Nobody could show off on you now. I get me pension and I get me gratuity. This is going to be, sometimes we don't understand the magnitude of certain decisions that we make until later down the road. This is a life-changing. And for some persons who are listening who may not be auxiliary workers, who may be in good jobs, sometimes they can't appreciate what it means to collect a little extra $100, a little extra $200, $300, whatever it may be, based on what you were working for. Sometimes they can't appreciate what it means for hundreds of people to get that extra $400-500, as I said, whatever it might be, $1,000, whatever the pension may be. And so I'm so happy for them. And I'm so happy that when they come to see me, when I meet them now, they're not going to be asking me, Lord, when I could get an appointment. I want to retire. There's a particular guy at Public Works. Man, I felt sorry for him. And the thing is, when he came to my office, I know that we are discussing this in cabinet and they're presenting to me. And I know that his future looks bright. But I can't say too much yet. So he's there and he's paying, and I'm saying, look, I am telling you, we are working on something to ensure that you are going to be able to retire well. Just bear with me. I can't say exactly yet, but you're going to find out. He used to call me on the phone all the time. He would get upset. Somebody had gotten appointed in a position that he would have liked to get appointed to. He said he brought all his qualifications as a tradesman, that he get this certificate here, he get this certificate there. Why is it that he won't be able to go home with a pension and so on, etc.? Met me a number of times before we made this announcement. Since we have made the announcement about GAE workers getting a pension, we had another meeting. His heart is eased now. You don't have to come back because he's now guaranteed not only a full gratuity, but also a full pension because he has enough years. And so I want to again commend the mover of the bill, the Honourable Member for Constituency number 8, and our distinguished Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, for bringing this bit of legislation to this Honourable House, the Pensions Amendment Bill. Commend the Cabinet of Ministers for their overwhelming support, and all of the civil servants who participated in this exercise to ensure that this becomes a reality for the thousands of workers that it will impact, over 10% of the whole national workforce. I want to thank the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration and the philosophy that pushes us to serve in this type of way. And that is why there is a day like Labor Day. Not for Labour Party Day, no, a Workers' Day. And if it is one thing that any worker, especially a government auxiliary worker, should be willing and should be excited to go out and celebrate, is this new pension arrangement. And so I want to invite everyone who has been affected, and by extension, whoever for you has been affected, to come out in solidarity with the workers of this country to celebrate this achievement that you know have been termed an equal person in the government service. You could wear whatever color you want to wear. Just ready solidarity to the workers, just so you know. We could wear whatever you want to wear. Divisions could come down, we don't care. On that day, we are marching on behalf of workers. And this bill is a good thing. And I'm really disappointed that the member from number 7, by the way, we usually get 7 days notice for Parliament. This particular Parliament, the notice was longer than that. So nobody can tell me that they ain't know that we were doing this today. Nobody can tell me that. Who could? No, nobody can tell me that. So I am disappointed that the member from number 7 is not here. to defend why after 7.5 years, there was not enough political will to make this happen. And for him to hear why on this side, we have the political will to act on behalf of the workers of this country. And so with these, a little bit more than few words, the persons downstairs and outside, I'm going to beg leave of the speaker, because it's now close to 1 o'clock, for us to break for some lunch after my presentation. And we're going to go downstairs so that we could commiserate, that's the right word, right? With you, celebrate with you. Downstairs for this monumental achievement. So I want to thank, again, this Parliament for considering this bill, thank the mover of the bill, thank the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, thank the workers for their extraordinary service and continued service, thank the colleagues on the government side and also those on the opposition who have lent their support to this bill. And may what I've said be pleasing to you, Madam Speaker, and may this bill journey successfully through this honorable House. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the honourable member for St. Christopher 3. I recognize the honourable member for St. Christopher 3.
Yes, Madam Speaker, we would suggest at this point that we break for lunch and we will then engage with the gallery upstairs and downstairs to celebrate this moment of the potential passing of the bill.
I was about to say that.
Potential passing of the bill. But we have every confidence that it will journey safely in the Honourable House.